Okay. So I was just keeping the first watch, and there's my son Gideon back there. I don't want this to take too long, but I wanted to share some insights that I had when I was praying over my children and addressing Yeshua. Um, a request began to stir up in me when I was praying over my daughter Sora. Um, I told her, I don't think that the story of your life matters more to me than the story of my life. And I'm going to tell Yeshua right now to change that in me. And as I began to pray that, I began to realize, like, one of the things that's killing our parenting is our narcissism. Are we satisfied to just be the person who sharpens arrows and sends the arrow out into the world? And we send their story forward. One of the phrases, like, I wanted to abase myself. Am I willing to just be a footnote in the epic of my child's life? Am I willing to be a footnote? And I asked Yeshua to do that work in me and to change my heart. And I would challenge you guys to do the same thing, to ask your master, Yeshua, please give me a willing spirit, create in me a clean heart and a new heart. Like Psalm 51 says, give me a willing spirit and a desire that my life would be a footnote in the life of my children. Did not Father, did not Abba, Daddy reveal this by revealing himself through the Son who became a slave to us? He didn't come to be served, but rather to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. Let our backs be the step, the bridge to walk across to joy and peace and fulfillment in Eden. I want my children to enter into Eden, and I want my back to be what they walk across, if that's what's necessary. I do think it's necessary. Actually, I don't say if. I think that's the intention of Hashem. That's the intention of God. That's what he reveals to us. And so all parents, I would challenge you, examine your hearts and ask the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, does my heart look like your heart in this way? Am I willing for my children to be a bigger deal than me? Am I willing for the life of my children, the lives of my children, to be more important than my own life? We live in a really dark age that has these perverse constructed narratives that teach us to run from aging and run from death and run towards you and our pleasure and what we want. And we're leaving our children behind in that process. And they're learning from our footpaths how to serve themselves on their own instead of us serving them and building them up. And I speak as a hypocrite, as a daddy. The disparity between me and Yahweh, the disparity between me and the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is a gulf. And I often pray that I wouldn't be a stumbling block. I often pray that I would not be a stumbling block to my children. If my children are supposed to know who the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is through my conduct, will they ever see God? Is a question. Surrender myself to God, surrender my will, surrender my selfishness. But I just want to encourage parents. It's an ongoing battle, but it looks like laying your life down on an altar for your children. It looks like offering yourself to the flames so that they can be built up, so that they can receive goodness, so they can be nourished, so they can inherit life. So remember, each child that you have, their life is a story that Yahweh is watching. Are you willing to take the posture of a slave and be a footnote in the life of your children? Light in the fact that their story would be pleasing to God. One of my biggest sins in the works of the flesh that Paul lists is selfish ambition. And I'll often see my children as obstacles to what I'm trying to accomplish. And when I do that, I'm becoming an obstacle to them meeting God. The biggest job that parents have is to introduce their children to God, and they don't introduce their children to God by taking them by the hand and taking them to another place. That's one way. You can take your child to God and say, okay, pray to God, let me teach you. That's one way. But we're actually supposed to, this is what the Selim Elohim, the image of God, is about. Our children are supposed to know what God sounds like and talks like and acts like through how we talk and behave, and speak to them and interact with them. And I just really pressed this morning that narcissism, the narcissism that drives our agendas, trying to fill the void inside ourselves with our own works, is killing our parenting. And we're children on the altars of our narcissism. It's almost like narcissism functions as Molech for people. Selfish ambition functions as Molech, and Molech was a hideous god, a hideous Elohim who used to devour children. So don't offer your children to your selfish ambitions and to your narcissism. Offer yourselves to Yahweh as an offering that is received on behalf of your children. There's more I could say about this, but I think that's good for now. Bless you guys.